this from podcast The Lotus Eaters. Let's take a look. Scotland's migrant problem. 3, 2, 1, go.
So, as many people know, Scotland is still rather ethnically homogenous, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not without their problems from migration. And in fact, I want to use this segment not only to highlight the issues of Scotland, which we don't do enough because there are many egregious problems closer to home, but also to highlight the argument that, you know, a community grows to a certain size and then there are problems that eventually manifest if they're not, you know, spread around the community or whatever. All of these arguments that say that there's a way of sneaking multiculturalism in, it's just very difficult. No. Any of these people, anywhere in a country, is enough to cause problems. And
therefore,
this is going to be probably...
Don't let them in. Don't let them in. And those that are here now, they have to go back.
The best demonstration of that, because as we can see here, most of Scotland is white. In fact, the vast majority, I think it's something like 92 to 96, depending on which numbers.
Well,
if it's white Scottish or white British.
Hamza Yusuf did try to escalate things a little bit when he was
did
First
indeed.
Minister.
So, as we can see here, the number of asylum seekers in Scotland has recently reached a new high. This was the end of last month, so
define new high.
Only a week or so ago, and obviously there are going to be consequences to this. And we're going to be looking at some of those consequences because, of course, this is a preventable problem. I know Scots can be a little bit stabby, but normally it's their gangs and not necessarily just random people on the street that get caught up with this sort of thing. And
with a rough sort of
what I want
lot,
to draw attention
sometimes.
to is something that was actually ongoing yesterday. So here's a picture of a knifeman. As you can see, he is not a native Scot. You know, Scots
not even
sometimes
close.
Be swarthy. I mean, I've got my Scottish father's appearance, and I've got some olive skin, but we don't get to that level. And so it resulted in things like a school lockdown because apparently the police and the authorities haven't said anything, but a couple of people on the ground who know the area said that he was going in the direction of a school. The police have also
he was going to commit a mass stabbing at a school in Edinburgh. Get shanked, get told it's part and parcel. Yeah, we love to bandy about that quote from Sadiq Khan, implying we just have to learn to live with it. We don't. We also don't have to live with people like Sadiq Khan in power, or people like Sadiq Khan in Britain. You can just round them all up and send them home. You can have mass deportations. People like Nigel Farage will tell you it's not possible. It is possible. It's very possible. It's what the people want. And over a long enough timeline, you are either going to give the people what they want or they're going to take it from you. It really is that simple.
Not terror-related, it was a mental health-related thing. Which,
it's like clockwork, isn't it?
If you do...
Yes, well, a lot of this terrorism is driven by people with mental disorders.
Stab someone at random in the street, one would presume that's a prerequisite, but also I want to know how did they internalise what they were doing. I want to know exactly why they're doing it, what part of the...
I don't think this chap has got any sort of internal dialogue going on. This does not, to me, seem like someone who can perceive breakfast. You know, shot in the dark with this sort of thing, I don't think his brain is capable of that deep level of processing. This is probably someone with a room temperature IQ. This might even be someone who is the product of inbreeding.
World they're from, and also how I can send them home, ideally.
Yes.
No, we don't.
They all have to go back.
World. So, two people have...
Well, this one needs to go to the hangman's gallows, but that's another matter.
Been taken to hospital. Apparently, as he was heading towards a school, a native Scot gave him a beating with a spirit level, but apparently that wasn't enough to dissuade him. A spirit level, because it was to hand more than anything.
Yeah.
And the police were present while...
Not even having someone beat the shit out of him would knock good sense into him. That's when you know you're dealing with a really special high level of mental retardation.
A lot of this was going on while he was wandering the streets, but they were not allowed to get out of their cars because they had to wait for the armed response units to turn up, because they're the ones that are supposed to deal with it. And so you had this bizarre situation where members of the public were trying to dissuade him more than the police, because the police weren't allowed to do anything until the people with the guns turned up, which...
What do you mean, weren't allowed to do anything? You can... sometimes I forget where I'm at. And sometimes I forget who I'm dealing with. Apparently they haven't got the memo, you can just do things.
I know. There's a lesson there, I'm sure.
Oh, there's lots and lots of lessons.
Eventually, he barricaded himself in his flat and had a long standoff with police before he was eventually captured and arrested. But one thing I did want to point out is the fact...
In America, he would have just been shot. And that would have been the end of it.
That members of the public intervened. First of all, well done for putting yourself at risk.
Yes.
But it reminds me
well
of
done,
this,
Scots.
Wonderful story of a man who kicked a flaming terrorist so hard
Let's
in the balls
fucking
that he
go.
his own foot.
Let's fucking go. John Smeaton, you absolute gigachad. You absolute governor. Well done, lad. That's how you do it. Chat. Someone wanting to do a terrorism, kick him in the testicles. Let's fucking go. Damn, I love my people.
Which, by the way, to the people of Scotland, you must...
Yeah, scrambled eggs.
If you're producing people like this. Sadly, though, the guy who did this, I think he's died of cancer since then.
Oh, that's terrible.
Poor man.
But, yes, we can see a video of the guy here walking around with knives. I'm going to mute it because you don't hear very much. It's just people shouting.
Yeah,
really.
it's ambient
You can see he's
noise.
just milling around with some knives in his hands. It looks grim there as well. No wonder people don't want to migrate to Scotland.
Well, you could at least make himself a bit entertaining, do a juggling act with him or something, but that would require him to have higher than a room temperature IQ.
And he also trashed a shop for some reason, so I don't know what was going on here, but...
And the most infuriating thing about all...
It's a savage chimping out. It's just savage, terroristic individual just having a chimp out. It's very simple. There's no rhyme or reason to it. We are, like I said, we are probably dealing with someone who's got a very high level of mental retardation. Like, dangerous levels.
All of this is that from the Scottish government, there'll be no reflecting on this. There'll be no tinkering with the asylum policy. There'll be no reflections on
That'd be asking
how to
too
actually
much.
save more Scottish lives in the future. Things will simply carry on as they always.
Excuse me, Kick. Discussing a terrorism is not a terrorism. Oh, what were you saying? Sure. Let me check the auto mod here. Hang on. Did it completely nuke you? It did. I can't even see it. May have to be careful with the spelling of certain things, sure. But sorry about that. I don't know, try again. It's like the Israeli Iron Dome, it can't get everything.
always have done.
They
Well-
will make them watch adolescents.
Yeah, no one
Yeah.
should deserve that. But
That's
it
a
does
human
seem
rights
to be the
violation
case that
there.
The more Scotland is exposed to this sort of thing, the more people are radicalising. And
Join the
is-
club.
Yeah, I know. And it's good to see people.
Hell hath no fury like a radicalised Scotsman. Just said if he wants to do the thing, you get your bloodline deleted. I don't think there's any comment required for that, sure.
Not walking blindly into the destruction of their own civilization, and of course the Scots don't deserve that. But one thing that did annoy me is here he is after he'd barricaded himself in, I believe, someone else's flat.
Look at that, grinning like a bloody idiot. Look at that. He's just sitting there grinning like a fucking idiot. Acting like he's done nothing wrong. He's just here. He's just cool, calm, collected, moisturized, in his lane, locked in, living his best life.
That's not even his own.
Right.
After stabbing 3 people, and he's there in the window just sort of smiling at the police down below. It's something that's just so infuriating that you invite these people in, give them a better quality of life than they'll ever possibly get, and they return the favour by stabbing some people, you know.
And then grinning about it, smugly. It's so infuriating that you wish someone would just wipe that smug grin off his face. Most directly through a punch in the face. Galegi, welcome in. He's done nothing wrong yet. Give him time. Oh, he already did something wrong. Stabbed a bunch of people in Edinburgh. Crusade time? Yes, please. Oh, we've been long overdue for another crusade for quite some time. I heard it said in someone else's chat on another stream, make the Middle East Christian again. Make Constantinople Christian again. I could get behind that. Yeah, Deus Volt. Looks like one of those guys you would see on motorcycles in videos from Afghanistan before they got hit with 50 cal fire. Possibly had some relatives. But that's what happened to them. Maybe. Looks like the 50 cals missed him. What a pity. Make the Albigensian Crusade look like amateur hour. Yeah, there you go. For real, we should take back Turkey before Israel takes it. I would like to see Constantinople restored as a Christian city once again. The Hagia Sophia, or the St. Sophia Cathedral, that was always a slap in the face and an embarrassment that it was turned into a mosque. It will truly be a good day for the world and from Christendom when it is turned back into a church. Hey, Lanks, welcome in. 30 stream streak, my goodness. That's one dedicated fan. Bless you, sir. That was the plan during World War I. It was originally supposed to go to Russia per the Constantinople Agreement of 1915. Well, the Romanovs specifically. Yeah, we know how that turned out. If we make the Middle East Christian again, and we manage to take our countries back to Christian values, it'll be a rat trap for them. Where do you go? Can't go back to an Islamic country now. I mean, they could always convert. Other than that, don't care. Not really my problem. City of Constantinople, the western bank of the Bosphorus, the Sea of Marmara, and of the Dardanelles, as well as southern Thrace to the Enez Media line, and that part of the Asiatic shore that lies between the Bosphorus, the Sakarya River, and the point to be determined on the Gulf of Izmit, and the islands of the Sea of Marmara, the Imbros, and Tenedo. Those were the lands France, Russia, and England agreed Russia should have in that area, as well as half of Anatolia. Pity it didn't work out that way, yeah?
Destroying a shop and then having
Because
armed police, like all of the police in the local
because
area
they can.
to converge on him.
They do it because they
This is
can.
the what are you gonna do to me face.
Yeah.
That's the,
Yeah, it's
It's an arrogant look.
It's the look of someone who
It's a
knows
smug
that he
look.
absolutely has the power in this situation.
It is, and it would be nice to live in a world where he.
It would be quite refreshing if someone came up and knocked that smug look off his face. But we all know that the police would arrest the person doing that. Because if anyone lives in a two-tier justice society, it's the United Kingdom.
He didn't have that power.
No.
Where he wouldn't be leaving that building except in the form of a body bag. That would be my ideal society. But alas,
Pity it didn't work out that way either.
People like to live in their comfortable delusions. So here is Edinburgh City Council, because it happened around their sort of area. Said, moments like this remind us of the need to stand together and of the importance of community.
Don't look
spirit
back
and
in anger.
tolerance. Everyone has the right to feel safe in their home, at work, on the streets, and in their neighbourhood.
Okay, so don't
Edinburgh
let these
is a
fucking
proud,
people in.
welcoming and diverse city. Our biggest strength lies in those who live here.
Oh, here we go. Diversity is our
Walls of
strength.
cultures.
No, it's not. It's not your fucking strength. It's your biggest fucking weakness.
Backgrounds, and we all have a part to play in
England lives in a society. Yeah.
making sure it stays that way.
Well,
Where were you?
Scotland, too. Scotland lives in a society.
Where were statements like this when there were Southport's riots going on? It'd be like saying, you know,
Right?
you know, they're only standing up for their country. They're only resisting, you know, people who do harm to their community. Well, you know, put the shoe on the other foot. You're basically apologising for a foreign man who randomly stabbed people by saying this. That's what I take from this, is that you don't care about the native Scots, and you care more about virtue signalling to foreign violent men than you do about the world.
Begging and pleading, please, don't stab us, don't blow us up. When we all know they're just going to stab you and blow you up anyway, no matter what you do. Because that's the level of retardation and savagery of the people that are being imported here.
Of presumably your own people, judging from her name, which in year of our Lord 2026 you should know a bit better than that. It's not some sort of new phenomenon.
the framing of that, though, our biggest strength lies in those who live here. And it's like people from all walks of life, cultures and backgrounds. It's like, okay, but what about that guy?
No, your biggest strength is your native population. That's your biggest strength. Anything else is a dilution, a weakness.
What about the guy who caused the incident that you're actually responding to? And if he's not one of those people, and actually your biggest strength doesn't lie with having that man in the city of Edinburgh, then does it not perhaps stand to reason that there might be some other people in the city of Edinburgh, and indeed cities up and down Scotland, who are also incompatible with the peace and community? Because this entire thing of the idea of the importance of community spirit, I'm quite sure that if there's one thing Scotland has not lacked throughout its history,
Classic
it's
filthy
some
Frank
sense of
picture. I know, I
community
saw it
spirit.
too.
Yeah,
I saw it too.
My grandfather was telling me about living in rural Scotland. He wasn't saying, oh yeah, you know, we had to hike across the Highlands and then we had to dodge some Africans with some knives. Like there were no stories of
No.
this. It didn't happen. It's a new
Because
problem,
those
and you
those
can dress it up
Africans
all you
weren't
like in
there.
some wishy-washy, liberal, flowery language, but
Suicidal levels of tolerance.
sorry, Stelios, I mean, you know, social liberal, lefty language. I saw you groan there.
He'll
And
get
then there are
over it.
also
That
other
wasn't
things.
what I was thinking, by the way.
Okay, there are also other things going on, like this. Oh, I really want to mute this because it's going to be loud. Samson, if you could turn it down a little bit.
That
before
maybe
I
we
do it.
need to listen so we can understand what being in this
Thank you,
situation
Samson. Basically, a group of men, just in a
Just men.
quite a nice looking car. I don't know whether it's stolen. Robbed a
That appears to be... What is that, a Jag? It was either a Jag or an Audi.
safe from a house in Dunbar in Scotland, and then a woman went to fight them off. This looks like quite a nice area of Scotland as well.
Yeah, it does.
And then they're just breaking into houses, stealing entire safes in the backs of cars.
Didn't even close the boot.
I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be making apologies. It fell out as well.
There goes the safe.
Worst criminals.
They're not sending their best. They are really not sending their best. Again, room temperature IQ people here. On her own, that is brave. That is the Scottish woman for you. Zero fucks given, and they oftentimes just as tough and hearty as the men, in their own way. Do not mess with a Scottish woman. Don't fuck with a Scottish woman. You, in some cases, can put your life at risk.
I've ever seen. You've got to strap it down, otherwise it falls out. That's how physics works. I mean, anyway,
they have no concept of physics.
They're not.
To them, physics is haram. Got to show Axe and Knife Girl, the Dundee one, I think. Yes, Girl from Dundee. Which we saw in an earlier episode of Stream. The gypsy nonces that were harassing her and her friends. Looks like they have finally been arrested or questioned by the police. Or they're facing some sort of charge. Probably going to get off with a slap on the wrist, but it's something.
Engineers and physicians.
I was told they were doctors and engineers, Stelios. They should know this by now. It's also things like this, just petty things, where you have...
Dumping of rubbish in the River Clyde. This in Glasgow.
They're claiming here they're a Pakistani migrant. I can believe it. I don't know where they're from in the world. But they're just
probably
dumping,
is.
Apparently it was like bones and old meat and stuff into a river. Apparently they stopped a car and dropped it off at this specific spot. Which, you know...
Why?
I know my Scottish grandparents weren't the cleanest people in the world, but they didn't do stuff like this.
Yeah. Even they had the decency to put that stuff out with the rest of the rubbish so that it could be picked up and taken away. Then again, I don't know if any of you have seen on social media the just rivers of garbage in Pakistan. We already know India is just basically a giant dumpster at this point, a giant landfill. Same thing going on in Pakistan. With some picture of just a wave of water brushing through a canal or something like that. And the water is grey, and it's just all filled with sludge and just garbage from who knows where. And God only knows what all is in there. But us in the West, we're the ones that are told we're the biggest polluters in the world, that we're the biggest contributors to global warming, which is not really a thing. We're told we're the ones who are the problem by the environmentalists. When in reality, it's the Indians, it's the Chinese, and it's the Pakis.
You know, they believed in basic sanitation, and someone like that is only going to harm the environment around them by bringing their third world behaviours into the country, and there's no pressure to make them stop, and nor will they, even if there was. There's also things like this. This is pretty horrifying, where a lady went out for her 21st birthday, and then a Syrian refugee followed her to a house and, for the sake of YouTube, sexually assaulted her. leaving her understandably traumatized. This guy, Syrian refugee. Syria is a safe country again now, presumably. He could go back. He should have gone back. Never should have been here in the first place.
Yeah, they all have to go back.
No obligation to the country of Syria, and nor
they are not needed, wanted, nor desired in Western countries anymore. They all have to go back. Put some statistics on Christianity in the Middle East. What I found on Google in regards to the modern Middle East and during the Ottoman era in the comments. Hope that's all right. Ah, that's all right, Harold. That's fine. Send them back, yes. They all have to go back.
their people. And yet this is allowed to happen for the sake of this diversity, and this is apparently our strength. People getting stabbed, the denigration of your living conditions, and rampant sexual assault. Well, great, well done. And then you have the grooming gangs as well in Scotland, because since there's been
even in Scotland,
there's also been realisations that this is going on in Scotland as well, and at least the Scottish government
it's
has
everywhere.
ordered an inquiry into them, unlike say Labour, who are unwilling to have an inquiry into them. So that's something, I suppose, if I'm being particularly charitable, but they've allowed the problem to exist in the first place. So cleaning up your own mess, so to speak, although it's a bit of a vulgar way of putting it, is not good enough, in my opinion. You should expect your government to protect you, not to endanger you, and then you give them credit for sweeping up their own mess.
And yet that's exactly what they've been doing. They've allowed all of this to fester, haven't done a damn thing about it, because of ethnic voting blocks. This is going to be one of the biggest black marks on the history of the UK for several generations, possibly for centuries, and deservedly so. That this was allowed to happen is just completely and totally evil and unconscionable.
I think that's far too charitable for my mind, to be honest. And as you can imagine, there have been quite a few demands made to close all of the migrant hotels in Scotland, and this is even coming from the Scottish Tories.
Good. Close them all.
Other people as well, which shows how far things have come, because of course the migrant hotels was a Conservative Party policy in the first place. So it's interesting to hear that they're pushing back on it now. Very convenient. But I'm sure there are many, many people who are not just Conservatives in Scotland who want to get rid of them because they understandably bring dangers everywhere where they are.
It shouldn't be the position of this party or that party. This should be an entirely apolitical policy.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
It's just
but
beyond
it's
not.
Politics. Does this endanger the Scottish people? Yes, then we're not doing it. And there should be entirely unanimous consideration from all of the parties of Britain on this point.
Well, if there are any Scottish leftists watching, it's a very English thing to welcome diversity, and you're very not patriotic if you do it. And so, by welcoming diversity, you're a bad Scot. There you go, because it's a quintessential. No, I'm just trying to wind you up. But I also wanted to give an update on that Scottish girl that went very, very viral, because there was
Yes.
There was
we were just talking about that
resolution
in
to
chat
a story that didn't really get nearly as much publicity as people talking about the issue itself. So you may remember this. She's been censored because she's obviously a child, and it was framed absurdly, like Dundee man. This is just a man from Dundee. This clearly not.
He's not. He's not Scottish. He's a gypsy nonce.
White British person.
Yes.
Isn't Fatos a quintessentially Scottish name?
I think that's fat ass, isn't it?
It says Fatos Ali. Isn't it average Scottish?
I think he's a Bulgarian gypsy, which says all you need to know.
Yeah.
at the centre, Dundee man at the centre of far-right misinformation row speaks out, and they're trying to present this guy as a victim. And then here's the Standard saying, Migrant confronted by schoolgirl 12 wielding axe in Dundee says he came to UK legally and did nothing wrong.
I'm going to press X to doubt on that. Also, he has to go back.
And here he is with his partner. Look at him. He's just a happy migrant trying to make it in the world. Feel bad for him. It's these terrible 12-year-olds being mean to him for no reason. It's racism, young child racism. Of course it isn't. And then here's the BBC. Police issue misinformation warning. That's a weird dystopian Orwellian style phrase all on its own. Over girl's weapons arrest. So of course she was, brought into custody because she had weapons in public, which, knowing the law wasn't necessarily surprising, unfortunately. But then
now from the Sun.
The man behind the knife video is a self-described gypsy gangster. And then
well, imagine my shock
here with like big tattoos on his chest, swearing, trying to be a gangster. He looks like a right wuss that could be snapped like a twig. But
he has a tattoo on the neck. That's
he does.
not a good sign.
That's a pretty good sign that you mean trouble, isn't it? Or at least, it's a good way of signalling.
So in a comedy,
you can actually just make these life-saving prejudices. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and in fact, it's
you can just do
to
things.
When you meet someone, just
honestly, these sort of life-saving prejudices, more people should do them more often. What a better, cleaner, safer world we would live in if more people did.
I have an IQ in double digits. Just save yourself the money on getting the tattoo. But I thought there were more pictures of him here, but you could see that the guy was no good. And thankfully there was a fundraiser for the girl who was targeted for having the weapons.
Good.
Because she was clearly
£74,000, bless.
By this couple, in fact. It's both of them. And she received £74,000 at least
Good.
at the time of this article, and I don't know whether it went directly to her or whether that was to help her with the legal case, but either way I'm sure it's very helpful. But then, very, very quietly, man and woman charged after girl's weapons arrest. And this is a very short article. You can see it's already over. It's just a few lines. And you'd be forgiven to think, well, who are these man and woman? Is it?
The media's trying to sweep it under the rug. They're trying to make this thing go away because it no longer fits the narrative.
The girl's parents? Who are these people? And it says a man and woman has been charged over an incident that saw a 12-year-old girl allegedly brandishing weapons on a Dundee street. The girl was charged, yes, we talked about that. Police Scotland said officers made extensive inquiries into the incident and repeat pleas for people not to share misinformation on social media. And it talks about the footage, in Elon Musk. Much of the speculation focused on the ethnicity and actions of the people confronted by the girl. They talked about her being referred. But then there's absolutely nothing about these two people that have been arrested, and the only two people I think that were involved in
that's
this
not a knife
thing,
that's a knife,
man and woman, were them. Other than that, it was those two
I saw
kids.
where you're going with that, Harold.
So unless the police arrested her parents for some reason, which I can't see any reason for that, then one would presume it was them that were arrested, and actually they did do something wrong.
I believe that's what happened.
It was just hushed up, which I can entirely believe happening because
no, this is exactly what it looks like they're doing. They're trying to hush it up. Just trying to expedite the whole thing and hush it up. Crocodile Dundee, great movie. Yes, really good movie. There's a sequel that they did later on, Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles. It was alright. Not quite as good as the first one. Sequels rarely are, but not bad. Took a girl to it on a date when it first came out. It was alright. We had a good time.
In post-Southport Britain at the minute, I am absolutely convinced that there has been some sort of intelligence briefing to say that, listen, the country is very
collapse.
Yeah, it's very unstable, and so we have to control how information is presented to keep the stability and make sure there isn't a collapse of order and widespread social unrest. And so there is precedent for this, by the way. We've done this in many different conflicts over the years. The intelligence agencies have instructed media outlets to frame things in certain ways, and I would not be surprised if this sort of thing was going on, to not add fuel on the fire. And this sort of unprecedentedly muted response here, man and woman charged, so they've followed their obligation to report on it, but the information in the article, there's none there at all. This is useless to you relative to the headline, and that makes me think that they're just deliberately trying to sweep things under the rug.
They are.
Yeah. If you hadn't been keeping up with the story previous to this, you'd have absolutely no idea as to who that man and woman were. And it's remarkable how the campaigning on this, as you were saying, the fact that there's clearly some coordinated effort in terms of like message discipline, in terms of how migrant crime is being reported on. But I would suggest to the British state that if they want to...
the media is coordinating with the government. Government's basically telling them what to say. I don't doubt it. Most sequels are made to make more money while people still want one. True. Very true. Think about the only decent sequels that we've gotten with major films. Empire Strikes Back. Godfather Part 2. Well, that's going back a ways.
Of the cohesion and safety of Britain, maybe not mustering all of the arms of the media to lie about these events.
Two Towers, Return of the King, that's another good one, yeah.
People who shouldn't be here, and to maybe actually
more recent example,
report the truth wholeheartedly and just accept that perhaps this isn't the utopia you'd wanted it to be, would be a good way of starting that.
It would be nice, wouldn't it? But yes, that is my roundup of what's been happening in Scotland with migration and
the absolute state of Scotland, everyone.
But my point being that even in Scotland, which is still vastly majority white Scottish, they're having
still got the problems
that you experience elsewhere. Perhaps
still got the problems
to a lesser scale, but still, it doesn't make the lives of the people affected any less worse. For that fact, and that people should be considering the impact of these sorts of things on their local community, no matter their politics, and keeping people safe should be the primary goal of any government.
Indeed.